a monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. You know what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
It's been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal Tony. What's going on, brother?
Not much, bud. How you been?
I've been good. And alongside us, once again, is our special guest, Mr. Josh Adams. What's happening, man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. I had to have you back because we were talking about covering Basket Case, and you said that this is one of your favorite films, so it was like, it's a no-brainer. We got to get him back on. Kind of get your input on everything.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
It's a lot of input on this one, I think.
Yeah.
So folks, guys, what are we covering today?
We are covering Frank Henenlotter's 1982 exploitation classic, Basket Case.
Man, I think this is one of those movies that even if you've never seen the movie, if you grew up in the age of Blockbuster or any video stores and you've seen the box art, like you've seen it's iconic, just that basket with the little hand coming out of it. Like everybody's at least seen or heard of this movie. If you at all were ever on the horror aisle of your local video store, you know what Basket Case is.
It's funny that you say that, because while I was sitting here watching it, my mom actually walked in, and the funny thing about it, the whole conversation was, she was like, "Oh, you're watching an old film," and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's a classic, And then I was like, "You want to sit down and watch it?" I was like, "Or do you remember this film?" And she was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Basket Case," and she was like, "I'd never seen that."
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean, she's introduced me to some weird, strange horror films, but
yes, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny.
It's just that box art stands out to me. There's certain ones, and maybe everybody has a different set probably, but like I distinctly remember as a kid the Basket Case art. I remember the VHS art for Tales from the Dark Side. Oh. I remember the tape for Return of the Living Dead. I thought that was super scary looking as a kid. I remember the first Friday the 13th. Really, all the Friday the 13th would be lined up. I mean, there's just certain box art from that era that just like, it was forbidden fruit, man.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I know one for me back then was The Howling. I always looked at The Howling and in my mind I was like, this is the most gory, like body parts flying around werewolf film ever made, and I wanted to watch it so bad, and I couldn't. So upset because I was like, this is the movie I have to see. But that's one I noticed too when we're talking about movies that kind of are VHS artwork that speaks to us and really resonated with us. Basket Case, of course, because I remember getting introduced to this film. I heard about it before I'd ever watched it. I've heard like the reputation of it's generally considered creature feature, but it wasn't really spoiled for me. I didn't know what the creature was or going on with that. So, but I saw the Something Weird video DVD, and that on seeing that and seeing the red case and stuff like that, I'm like, this is just speaking to my soul. I want to see this movie. I want to watch it. Watching it, finding it finally, and then watching it, just completely solidified all I was thinking about what this could be.
I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I was pretty young. We didn't have cable, but my grandma had cable. And I remember I spent the night at her house one time, and she didn't care what I watched. So she was in bed. And I remember sitting up one night and watching HBO, and it came on HBO, and I sat up and watched the whole thing and went to bed wondering what I had just watched.
I would have loved to have seen it like that, man. That would have been great.
That'd have been cool.
I just seen it on TV.
I've seen some really cool films back in the day on TV like that. Yeah, I had a wonderful experience when I was watching. Oh God, what was it? Night of the Comet.
Oh
It was on the Sci-Fi Channel. Watch that. That was cool.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, a lot of the I wish I at the time I was more on what was going on with Joe Bob. I think I got the shirt on what Joe Bob was doing back then with Monster Vision, and I wish at that time I was super young, so I didn't really get a chance to see a lot of that stuff. But I wish I kind of watched that when I was, that age. I mean, it would have taken me to like another stratosphere as far as being a fan, especially at that impressionable age.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff. I mean, Joe Bob, and he always had the best commentaries on the movies and stuff like that because he was a big fan. So
Yeah, definitely.
he'd always champion movies like this. And as a matter of fact, I think he's a huge fan of Basket Case. He's talked about it numerous times on Monster Vision and just shows in general where he's done, commentaries and just talked about films. I mean, I know he's championed this one before, but
I think he even had a big part in this movie, in its release being the version of the movie that we got.
I think so. Yeah.
It seems like I read somewhere that like he was one of the ones that said like, because they wanted to heavily edit like the violence and stuff out of it, and he's like, no, you got to leave that stuff in, or this movie's not like. I think he was instrumental in it being like the director's vision, getting to make it to the theater the way it was. Like, because I think the studio or whoever was working to release the movie didn't want it the way with all the gore and blood and stuff in it.
Now, if we could have just got him to do that with My Bloody Valentine, that would have been great.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Notorious for the cuts on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think thankfully he did do that because I remember reading something about that. Well, he did go that route, man, because he'd always champion horror and exploitation. So seeing it in its truest form, the way the director intended you to see it is always detrimental and important. So, but we're gonna get into a little bit of plot with this one.
Well, first and foremost, before we get started, we do need to tell the viewers, stop right here if you haven't seen this film.
Yeah, do our disclaimer.
Head over to Tubi. Tubi has the Arrow release on it.
Tubi.
So you can watch it in full HD, and it just as good as the Blu-ray art or the Blu-ray release, and it's really nice. So Tony and I were in fact talking about it. It is somewhat of a cleaner version, but it's still pretty dark because the overall film itself is just so dark.
Right. Well, the quality of the film grain and it's always had that soft feel, kind of like Maniac does, where the picture quality is like soft, and I don't know. I personally love that look. I think especially
that's something that's been lost with so much of the digital filming now. Like when it was filmed on actual film back then, that there was just that gritty, just noise that was in it that gave it such it's such an iconic look, and I miss that about those older movies, and not just horror movies. Like I remember, like you pull out like the old like original Ninja Turtles movie, and it's got that same just beautiful gritty look to it. That's just you only get with that film. I don't know if it's 16 millimeter or what, but like there's just something about actual film that I miss.
Yeah.
Well, that's why Tony and we champion independent filmmaking so much, because you'll have filmmakers out there that'll respectfully record that way, just to get that feel. Because even like when Adam Albrant was filming, what film was he filming on VHS? The whole film was done on VHS, though. You remember? Maybe Hunters?
Maybe it was Hunters, yeah.
Yeah. I remember him putting something on Facebook about that, but he strictly used a damn camcorder and actual VHS tapes to make that movie.
I know a lot of, especially early on in the scene, a lot of filmmakers were doing that. Now they shoot digitally, but they put the filter on it to make it look older. That's their go-to now, is to make the film look older by putting a filter on it. But
I know Tarantino still loves to use actual film.
Tino is one of the filmmakers that's in Hollywood still shooting on film. He does not shoot digitally, nor will he. And I think that's kind of why he's saying he's going to be done after his 10th film, because more and more they're pushing for digital filmmakers, and he's just not having it. He's too stuck in his ways of old Hollywood, which I don't blame him. I love it.
Yeah.
I champion it. I'm glad he does that, because his films truly feel unique in a studio productions. His films always feel unique.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the look on this movie, even when you watch the cleaned up Blu-ray, I kind of prefer watching it on the Something Weird video DVD, because it does feel gritty and grimy, and you like to see it in that lower quality. And I don't know, it just speaks to me more. Not that the Blu-ray's cleaned up like completely, but it does have a little bit of that grit to it still, and like that softness that we were talking about. But yeah, I just love watching it. That plus that's the first time I watched it was on that DVD, so it kind of a little bit more special to me. But I love that release more so for the features on it, where they get into interviews and stuff about the production and what happened shooting in New York and stuff like that. A lot of scenes that I'm always like, how the hell did they get away with that? Well, they kind of explain it in the special features, and they kind of get into that, which is really neat. There's a couple scenes that we're probably going to talk about here that I'm like, how the fuck did they get away?
How did they get away with that?
So yeah, watching the special features on that was great. I did kind of check those out after I watched the movie. But yeah, man, like I said, definitely got to get the disclaimer out there. If people haven't seen Basket Case, if you want to and you don't want anything spoiled, definitely come back to us after you watch it and join in on the discussion. It's going to be a fun one. I know that.
All right. Well, who wants to do the synopsis?
I'll go for it.
Ooh.
All right. So we open up. The movie opens up on just another one of those, just the seediest possible part of New York City that you could ever be in. And we see this young man who's walking down the street carrying this huge wicker basket, and he's looking for a place to stay. He's looking for an apartment, and he's got this teased out 80s hair. He looks like if you tried to buy John Bon Jovi on Wish. And of course we find out later on that what's in the basket is his brother. So the main character's name is Dwayne. His brother's Belial. Belial and Dwayne were conjoined twins, so he grew out of his stomach. And at one point, they had an unwanted surgery to remove his brother, and they essentially threw the brother away. And so the two of them, he's gone and got his brother out the trash. He keeps his brother alive. He feeds him, and he keeps him inside this basket. And they've come to New York because they are seeking vengeance for this unwanted surgery. They want to get revenge, and Belial is 100% drawn to this idea of vengeance. He's an angry, violent, bitter little character that looks a lot like Krang from the Ninja Turtles, and legitimately a scary little booger. But the whole idea for them going there is to get revenge, but that kind of gets a monkey wrench thrown into it because Dwayne falls for basically the doctor's secretary, Susan, or Sharon. Is it Susan or Sharon?
Sharon.
Sharon. Mm-hmm. And Belial gets very angry and very jealous. And it's a mixture of jealousy because he here's his brother is horny for this secretary, and at the same time it's also taking him away from the mission. And they have this psychic bond, which is a really odd thing that's explored to where whatever Belial feels, his brother feels, and they can communicate. And early on, you see them communicating psychically. Because Dwayne can hear Belial in his mind, but he speaks to him audibly. So it's an interesting relationship between the two of them. But eventually, they because of the woman, it makes enemies of the two brothers. I think that's the basic plot line, but there's a lot more to it than that I'm sure we're gonna unpack.
Oh yeah,
fantastic, man. There's a lot of moments where I'm like, especially I look at the psychic bond between them. I think that's a really neat touch. That the fact that they can communicate. Well, Belial mainly communicates via his thoughts to his brother, and then his brother speak to him.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating concept throughout the movie, because I mean, essentially at the end of the day, this is a revenge movie.
Mm-hmm.
The revenge plot, of course, there's some subplots, in there too, but the basic structure of it is like a creature feature revenge movie, which I think is really neat, which really plays into Henenlotter being what he considers himself an exploitation filmmaker. This movie is, like, to me, just perfect exploitation.
You could take the creature aspect out of it, and you'd still have a good revenge story.
Absolutely, yeah. Because and that's another thing I liked about the characters. Belial was so hell bent on revenge, and his brother Dwayne almost just seems to be going along with the ride to help his brother out, because he's a very, he cares about his brother at the end of the day, and he just wants to help him out and be there for him and go through it with him as much as he can, because really Belial can't really get around as easy as Dwayne can. So that's why he's always in the basket, and everyone's always asking, what's in the basket, which I love. That happens multiple times.
I'm almost wondering, though. I'm almost wondering if he's not being manipulated into this.
I don't kind of
like, not so much going because he doesn't do any of the killing and stuff like that. He just pretty much releases his brother and says, "Come back when you're done. Make sure that you get, like, the address book and stuff like that."
I mean, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, because he, like, waits in an alleyway. Like, he doesn't want to be a part of it. Not truthfully. Or at least that's the feeling I got. Like,
I mean, he's complicit, but he's not actively participating.
Right.
Complicit.
Yeah.
Because there's that wonderful scene. There's that wonderful scene when he's talking to him when he's hiding, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I've helped you from this point on." So it's mainly Belial calling the shots with this and wanting to plan it out with this, but he's just along for the ride, and he's basically explaining that to him because he wants to go off and live his life and go out and date the girl and have a life. And
well, he's starting to get a little taste of normalcy.
He wants a taste of normalcy, but you can tell Belial's hold on him is so strong, both because he has that psychic connection with him and because they're brothers, that he's so jealous of any time he goes out to do anything, and which is perfectly executed with his tantrum scene in the hotel, which I can't wait to talk about in full. But you can tell he has that stranglehold on his brother, and he kind of, like, it's almost manipulation, but then again, it's also like he's going along with the ride because he wants to be the compassionate, good brother.
Well, I think deep down inside, Dwayne loves his brother. They grew together for 12 years. They had a special bond, especially like a telekinetic bond, because he even makes the comment, "I used to be able to talk to him, without any words, and up until the surgery." But his brothers can still communicate to him. So
well, and I think, go ahead, sorry.
But I think they have a love bond, but I think it's different on Belial's end. Like, Belial is like, I feel that he's, like, manipulating him. He knows that he won't harm him because he loves him deep down inside, and I think Belial uses that effect to his advantage, and basically makes him help him get revenge.
I mean, I think we all have toxic family members or people, so I think everybody can identify with that aspect of the story where there's people that maybe hopefully they're not getting you to help them murder somebody, but, like, there's people who will put you through a lot because they know they can, because they know that you love them, and so they're able to hold that over your head. So I know that it's easy to look at Basket Case and say, well, it's it's silly, or it's got this, and it is silly, but there are elements of that story that I think definitely connect on an emotional level, even for a B movie, to that you're invested in Dwayne because you want him to get the girl. You want him to get
Mhm.
away from his brother. Like it's easy to connect emotionally with that idea because I think we all have had somebody in our life that's toxic enough that we're like, man, they're really kind of using you, and everybody can see it but you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's the strongest aspect of the movie is that
Mhm.
the psychological back and forth between the two brothers and what that means and how possessive he's almost possessive over his brother. Like he feels like he owns him, which is really, really which when they're the scene where they're he's talking to Casey in the
Mhm.
bar, they're kind of going back and forth. And he's kind of like he's drunk, so obviously he's more open and he's going to be freer with his words. And he's
Mhm.
talking about his brother, and he's saying his brother's a freak and this and that. It starts off really harsh, where he's like he looks like I can't remember what he described him as, but he's talking about how he looks like a freak and this and that. But then he gets really deep into it with the psychological aspect of hey, we used to be able to communicate. I kind of lost that, but he's getting much better at it, and he's been honing that craft, and he's almost got it down pat like perfectly. So he really gets into the psychological aspect of it to her, and she's just like, "What the fuck is he talking about? This guy's drunk, mine."
I love
But
how
he's
he refers to his brother as a Siamese twin.
he his guts because he really, at the end of the day, he's like,
Mhm.
because they're really close with their aunt. Their aunt was the only one that really was like champion them together and
Treated them normal.
them normally. And the father couldn't stand Belial. He hated him. He didn't.
He named him Belial. He named him after a demon.
Yeah. He didn't even want to acknowledge that he was his son. He's like, no, I only have one son, and that's Dwayne. He's like, that other thing's a creature. It needs to be removed.
It's Tyrion Lannister.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. He really was like just an evil bastard, man. Just evil. I mean, just hateful too.
Did
But
the dad really deserve what he got?
oh, he got it rough too, man. That was a
That's
brutal.
terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
kudos. That's really good planning.
Especially on like short notice. I mean,
We're gonna take this wagon. We're gonna hook up and rig up this saw.
yeah, they had a whole system in place. I mean, it was great.
I love the irony behind it, though. They literally cut him in half
Half, right?
because he fell apart.
Yep.
That's cool.
It's just the way he got cut in half. It's fantastic. But yeah, like you could tell, like the aunt was really, really detrimental to them in their early development. She tried to, because they couldn't go to school, so she wanted to try to teach them and had the school board come out, and that's when the lady like saw them and flipped out. That's when you get to see the really good shot of them connected, which is like really only time you see that other than the surgery scene. So you can sense the connection there, which I mean the effects too look really cool. When you see that the younger versions of themselves. But like I said, it's almost like when she passes away and she dies, because we see when she's in the casket, they're grown now because Dwayne's standing above her and he's grown. So I think that's the catalyst to like set them off their revenge plot or set off their plan. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes as far as like the tension in their relationship is when he knows he's going off to see the girl, and he doesn't want to outright lie to his brother, but he wants to kind of frame it differently because he doesn't want him to know, hey, I'm going to go out with a girl and I'm going to have a good time, and I don't want you to be there. So the way he's having to tiptoe around his brother, I think that's a really effective scene. And, kudos to the acting because, you got to be a pretty decent actor to make us believe that you're negotiating your way around a thing in a box, in a basket, and have it be believable.
Right. Yeah.
That's like the part where he's finally in the hotel room sleeping, and he's trying to sleep, and his brother's pacing back and forth, and he's talking to him, but it's only one-sided dialogue. And as an audience member, you automatically know what's going down. He's talking to him telekinetically or whatever.
It's really effective.
And just begging him to stop. Like, just stop. I won't sleep. Stop talking.
Yeah.
That's cool because it sets up. So he's talking to him throughout the night. And then the next day, they're at, which I love that they added this being shot in New York, that they actually went to like a theater on 42nd Street. And he was watching a Boo movie. And he had his brother there, and they were watching it together. And he was falling asleep because he had been talking to him all night. He didn't get any sleep. So he was starting to fall asleep while they're watching the movie. And then the guy noticed that he had a basket. So he's like, oh, it's some punk off the streets. Like, oh, he's got to be some valuables or something in there. So he tries to steal it, take it to the bathroom, open it up. And that's when he gets attacked. And it's just like, oh, that's cool setup or that's a good payoff because you set it up because he was talking to him all throughout the night. He didn't get any sleep. So I added that little touch to it too. That was pretty cool.
I like all the little subtle touches of the film.
I mean, there's tons, man. At the end of the day, there's tons.
And see, when we talked last time about Frankenhooker, and I enjoyed Frankenhooker a lot, that's one of the reasons I like Basket Case more is because there is a little bit more subtlety. There's more build up. There's more. I think the acting's better. Not to take away from the other, because I mean there were things acting that I did enjoy in Frankenhooker, but like I feel like overall the cast in Basket Case does a better job of pulling me into the movie and making me care about their characters.
I love the side characters too in this are fantastic. I laugh so fucking hard at the landlord because he flips out every time something's going on. He loses his shit and he's going up the stairs. He's like, "It's not a hotel, it's a nut house." He loses his shit. And the best time he does that is at the end of the movie when Dwayne's coming back and he's throwing the basket around and he looks like, oh, here we go again, and he flips the thing over.
I love when you first meet him. He says a line that I love. It's so hilarious. It's this hole in the wall trash hotel. And he says, "I don't want no junkies in here because this is a respectable hotel." I was like, I have to write.
No, it's not.
Because at first, when he's talking about renting a room, he's like, "How much is a room?" And he goes, "By the hour." He's like, "Well, I need to know how long you're staying."
It's a real respect.
This is a respectable establishment.
No, hookers on 42nd Street. Come here.
Yeah,
I love how every single person that lives in that building, none of them have a job. Like literally, all of them just wander around and peep in people's keyholes and listen at the door for shenanigans. How's it? What?
Casey has a job, correct?
She's like a hooker.
She's a hooker, isn't she?
Yeah.
That's what I got from her.
When
takes her
Dwayne,
John
I think it's implied, yeah.
Yeah. Like when when Dwayne first gets there, she's like taking this John back to her room. Yeah, and you could tell like he's a suited up guy. Like you could just tell. Like it's implied, but it's just like, yeah, okay, I know what you're doing with that.
But there again, more subtlety than Frankenhooker.
Right, exactly.
A
lot more. But I love her. I love her apartment. There's like a smiley face motif in her apartment.
Everything. Yeah, I noticed that in this new round. Because even when she walks out of the bathroom, she's got a smiley face shirt on, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yellow and just the smile. Yeah, I thought that was really neat.
Mm-hmm.
Really set up her apartment like a lot different from all the other ones that are really trashy and just disgusting.
And Belial tried to cup a feel.
Oh yeah,
you dirty bastard.
It's ironic that he's basically wanting the same thing that Dwayne has, but he feels like he can't get that because I guess his appearance, what he looks like, he's a monster, he's a freak.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't feel like he can get that because as soon as somebody sees him, they start screaming, flipping out, and that's just what happens being a giant lump of flesh with sharp ass teeth and like really ratty ass hands, and just disgusting. But I love the effects that they use on him.
Yeah.
The way he looks, it's really, really neat. It's really, really cool. Especially with the low. I know this
Let's
movie.
talk about that for a minute, because like when it comes to effect work, granted he's brought to life in a few different ways depending on the scenes. Because I know some of the scenes use stop motion animation,
love it.
and that takes you like right back to like the Ray Harryhausen like Clash of the Titans type stuff, and those scenes are hilarious and just awesome scenes. But the puppetry with him, like he's legitimately a pretty scary looking design. Like his eyes, he almost has like great white shark eyes. And like whenever and then there's times when he's a lot more calm and he looks almost like a normal face. Mm-hmm. But then when he's angry, he gets, like his teeth remind me of Tim Curry in the old It miniseries, like when he does the shark teeth. Like he's a legitimately creepy like puppet. Like he's a freaky little Muppet, man. I mean, I wouldn't put it on the same level as like something by like Savini would make or like Rob Bottin or any of those guys, but like for a lower budget movie, like Belial is a pretty freaky little monster. Like he's scary looking.
Yeah, and
just imagine
sequels they get more and more because I mean the production's higher and stuff like that. They have more budget. It gets more and more elaborate. And he looks better and better and better. But something about the simpleness and the cheapness of how he looks in this movie is more effective, just being off-putting and really, really creepy looking. I love the effect that they use when his eyes are glowing. I think that's fantastic.
That's cool.
Really, really cool. I dig that, man. But yeah, like Josh was saying, like there's some scenes where he's flipping out and his face detorts, and then there's scenes where he almost looks normal because I know that from what I understand, they took a cast of the guy that played Dwayne's face. They took a cast of him they used for Belial. So I mean, really, they're twins, so it makes sense that they would do that. But I think it's really cool that they included that.
I remember him especially being disturbed by his face, like when he was unconscious while they were doing the surgery to remove him. Like I remember as a kid watching that, like I was freaked out by that. I don't know what it was about that scene, but maybe it was just a gross, disturbing scene altogether. But like he was way more believable than you would have expected a simple prosthetic effect to be. Like he works really well. Mm-hmm. And they get the most out of him too, especially when like you're not expecting him to be on a wall or like they get some good jump scares out of him.
Feel is fantastic when he's on the wall. I loved it.
Yeah, that's a good moment. Like it's a really good jump scare.
That would have scared the shit out of me if that actually happened.
Man, you walk into a room and all of a sudden there's a Krang looking thing, tater headed boy coming off the wall.
Oh, dude, I love that reveal. It's fantastic when you first see him.
Yeah, that it's unsettling when he's doing that scream too.
Yeah, the scream sound effect. Yeah,
the sound effects of him are quite awesome.
Oh, 100%. Really effective.
Yeah, because even pregame, Josh was talking about how the eating was like stomach wrenching a little.
I don't like the sound of people eating anyway. Like just normal eating, people eating sounds I don't like. So like amplified, what they call it, ASMR stuff of Belial eating.
It was quite gross. Yeah.
So nasty.
Like I was just dumping a whole pack of hot dogs in. What I really liked was when I was paying attention when he first like showed up with the burgers, he unfolded one, took the bun off, threw just the patty in. Then the next one, he unraveled it, threw the whole fucking thing in. And
then he just starts to fix the whole bag.
Yeah, foil and everything. Just here you go.
There's a lot of cool little moments in that scene because when he's doing that and he dumps the whole thing in, then he has one for himself. And then he opens it up and he wipes his hands on the bed. Wipes his hands on the bed just to add to the more grit and grime of the movie.
Yeah.
Just something so simple you wouldn't even notice it if you weren't really paying attention. But I just thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. I love his tantrum moments too. He
I'm
freaks
telling you.
out a lot. He's like a little child, really.
I was about to say, like, he reminds me of like 9-year-old me when I didn't get my way, storming around my room.
Fuck this TV up.
Yeah, the
That was
stop
great.
motion. I'm a big fan of stop motion. So when I see, especially stop motion like that, oh man, just draws me straight in.
Mhm.
Just really, really neat filmmaking on a
Well,
budget.
there's something that's so like unnatural about the way that it moves that to me is still really effective. I like the stop motion in the climax of The Thing a lot.
Yeah.
Like there's something about that jerky motion that it's pretty effective for her. I honestly kind of wish that we had more of that, like movies like Beetlejuice that use it. I've always felt like there's just something very unsettling about stop motion that I miss.
I do too, and I have a matter of fact on my letterbox. I have a list of like cheesy stop motion animation in movies that are really, really cheesy, and I have a couple of films on that list. I think we should definitely cover a couple of those one day because they're fun, man. You want to talk about some fun movies? There's some good ones on that list, but yeah, there's something about the because the movement's not choreographed. It's just you don't know where it's very, very, like you said, herky jerky. You don't know what's going to happen. So I think that makes scenes like that more effective.
Isn't there some stop motion in Killer Clowns from Outer Space? Doesn't it have a little bit?
Killer Clown. I don't think so. There might be some in there.
Might, yeah.
Something.
You know what? Actually, I think he's right because the scene where the puppets are in the bathroom with the popcorn and everything.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit in that movie too.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to go on my list then.
Oh, I love that movie.
I need to rewatch that just to see now.
I almost wore the shirt, the Killer Clown shirt for the review. Almost did. But yeah, man, like something about stop motion animation. You think about the Harryhausen stuff, and it's just so effective. It's so good. Like I said, it's a dying art though. You don't see it. You don't see it at all anymore, which is really
thank Jurassic Park for that.
Yeah. Definitely can, man. It's sad though. It is sad. It's like another technique in filmmaking that's just extinct now. It's very, very unfortunate, but
that was have y'all ever watched Netflix does the movies that made us?
Yeah.
All right. Did you watch the Jurassic Park one?
Haven't seen that one yet.
It was really interesting that they had brought in I don't remember the guy's name, but like he was the top dog of the stop motion animation at that time. They brought him in to do all the dinosaurs, like the T-Rex and all that stuff. And there were some guys that were working on the CGI that said, like, we believe we can build this on the computer. And nobody wanted to, like, they were told not to do it, that would cost too much. It would take way too long not to do it. And so they kind of secretly made a 3D, like, CGI Tyrannosaurus, just a running animation of it, and showed it to Steven Spielberg and all them, like, at a time when they weren't supposed to be showing it. And after that, he's like, no, we're going to do CGI. We're going to do this. And that was pretty much the end of stop motion in movies happened right there, because like it literally was because of Jurassic Park.
So sad.
Well, that's the thing. Spielberg has had history with stop motion, correct? Because he did that with Close Encounter of a Third Kind, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Spielberg films right there.
I love that movie.
So good. I always checked floor vents because that would scare the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Well, I mean, like, there's just like something about even like things like the first Terminator, like the big climax of that was stop motion. It was so scary.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you took that and put it in a modern movie, I think it would still be effective if you did it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I said, man, it's truly effective, and for like I said, a long time it was part of cinema. It was a good part of cinema. And it's just like one of those things is dying off, like stuff like that. Matte paintings. You don't see matte paintings in movies anymore. Like that's another thing that's dying away, or it's extinct now. I mean, just unfortunate stuff because me being an old cinephile and seeing, well, not personally, but I love older films. I much more watch older films than more modern films. I don't really watch a lot of modern stuff. So, seeing that stuff like that, I like to just enthrall my whole mind around that type of filmmaking. I like to stick to that era. So it's just like I said, I always love seeing it. It's fantastic, but unfortunately, you just don't see it in modern cinema anymore.
Well, CGI feels soulless.
Well, yeah,
and the old stuff, it was there was so much artistry, there was so much passion. You could tell like that they poured themselves into creating that illusion. That's why you can give me a movie like that new, Moonfall or whatever it is, another big sci-fi CGI fest, that I would much rather watch for like Forbidden Island or like Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would much rather watch Forbidden Planet because it's got so much more artistry involved in it than just a computer that's put a bunch of spaceships up here and then there's a bunch of explosions and somebody hits a button on the keyboard to make another explosion. It's just empty.
There's nothing behind it. Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
I think that's the biggest. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just about to say that's why Tony and I praise practical effects so much. Because for a film, like for instance, I watched. Okay, what was that movie about? The giant alligators. I'm trying to think of. But it came out a couple of years ago, and I watched it, and where they're trapped in the basement, and the alligators are down there.
Crawl.
Thank you. Yeah, the scene where you first see the alligators, that whole CGI part, really ruined it for me.
Yeah, it takes you out.
The film itself was such a really good film, and the practical effects that were there were amazing and quite effective. Had they just pulled off a rubber alligator swimming through that water, it would have looked more natural to me than CGI, in my opinion.
I think the biggest disappointment on that end of things was when they did the newer prequel to The Thing.
Oh God, that's the biggest travesty. And
because I'm assuming you've seen, they filmed a bunch of practical effects scenes for that movie, and they're brilliant. They are on par. Some of it looks even better than the John Carpenter's version. It's really good practical effects. And for some reason, the studio just says, throw all that stuff away. And then they do all this CGI that just, you're looking at a cartoon. It's not the same.
I understand the majority of that film was shot. So to add CGI and superimpose it onto the practical effects would have costed you more money, which I don't understand that decision whatsoever. But that's what they went with, and I think that's one of the biggest travesties, man. Those effects were fantastic, and
it's such a shame.
Well, what it comes down to is studio hands.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Well, at that time, that film practical. They were going practical effects heavy on every fucking thing being made. Doesn't matter if it's horror films, the superhero films. Everything was getting CGI. So, I mean, it was a sign of the times. It was just that movie was probably made at the wrong time, honestly.
Let's see. I think that one of the reasons why The Mandalorian and things like that have been so popular is they feel so much more like the original trilogy of Star Wars because they built an actual Razor Crest. They built actual droids. They built actual practical aliens, and it feels more like that lived-in, dirty space western feel that the old movies had, and the fans know the difference. I would much rather watch that than some gigantic CGI fest like what we got with The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, classic filmmaking, classic film thinking, and it's just going the way of the dinosaur, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But man. Like I said, the shots in the beginning when Dwayne's walking down 42nd Street, and you guys saw the dealer that was just like trying to sell him all kinds of shit, and he was just going off and off and off on every fucking thing he had, and it was insane the amount of shit that this guy was trying to sell him. And I love at the end of it, he was all this stuff he's trying to sell, and at the end of it, he's like, "Man, what the fuck's wrong with you, man?" He's walking off.
You know what? It's so funny that scene caught me. I would have fucked with that guy so bad. Because had I been walking down the street and like he played it off well, he just kept staring ahead like he was just trying to find a place, you know. But I mean, in that moment, yeah, I would have just turned to the guy and been like, "I'm a cop."
But he's almost like that thing, like, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact, don't make eye contact, just keep going.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, and that's. So there's another moment that's similar to that where he's walking up the stairs to his room and the lady across the hall from him is talking to him. And she's like going on and on talking about this woman that lived in that apartment and this and that. And the next thing you know, she just mid-sentence stops talking, just turns around and walks away. And I'm just like, you're not going to finish your, what happened?
That feels like authentic, like situations you'd find yourself in with if that was the hotel you chose to rent a room in.
Yeah. Really, he picked the most eccentric hotel in New York. All the tenants in that hotel were very, very eccentric. I mean, they were very.
It's a weird bunch.
I like the one guy's apartment. He's got pictures of boobs all over his apartment. Notice that? Yeah. Old peeping Tom there.
He's a connoisseur of boob.
They try to take his money.
Yeah, that was funny. That was one of the spoofs on the movie. After the temper tantrum or whatever, and everyone goes in. He goes to rob Dwayne, and he picks up the stack of money on the floor, and then decides to look in the basket. He goes to look in the basket, he lays the money down, and then when the cops come in or whatever, they pick up the wad of cash, and it's rolled up.
Rolled up, yeah.
I did notice that. I did catch that spoof.
Bilal came back and put it all up in a
yeah. Safekeepings.
Yeah.
Oh man, there was another spoof though, where in the bar scene where he's getting drunk and he's talking to Casey or whatever. He refers to his brother as his brother Dwayne.
Yes, dude. Thank you for bringing this up.
Yep.
I didn't catch that.
Yep.
I've never caught that.
Wrote that down, and I thought it was interesting. And when I went on the trivia, the actor that played Dwayne did that purposefully because he wanted the audience, or he wanted the viewers to believe that at that moment Bilal was taking over. No, that Bilal was taking over him and possessing him almost in a sense.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I thought that was neat, man. I never noticed that before until this one. I was like, I never caught that before. Yeah. And then when I was watching it this time, I'm like, oh shit, I got to write that down because that's really cool. And then I looked at the trivia, and I was like, oh, look at that, they explained it. All right, cool.
That works out. I took it as he was drunk, and he just, messed up.
That's what I thought. I thought it was like, okay, maybe he screwed up his line, and they didn't have enough for a reshoot, so they just kept it in there.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
it would have been believable as an audience member that he had been drinking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you could tell this guy, he's kind of green around the gills. He'd never been drunk and partying and doing all that kind of stuff before. He was a young guy. He had a job as a mailman, and he kind of kept a low profile, low key. So, he'd never done anything like that before. So you can kind of see where this is like a stripped down of innocence kind of thing, where he's getting exposed to the real gritty world of New York, like the real New York City. Because he's from upstate, so he doesn't know anything about all this crazy shit that's going on in the city and how the city can, like, infect you in a sense. Just because of all the stuff around, the grit, the grime, the sleep. I mean, it can start affecting your psyche, so to speak.
Well, you said something kind of interesting there, though, when the actor did that. I wonder if he did that a second time in the film. Because I found it kind of funny how, like, he was, like, stumbling all over the place. He was falling asleep at the door. He couldn't literally make it into his apartment, by himself. So Casey puts him in bed, and then she's standing there kind of admiring him a little bit, and that's when he like opens his eyes really fast, like he's not drunk at all. He jumps up and he's like, I almost forgot my brother, and he picks him up and sets him down carefully. Then goes to bed. So that possession thing might be.
Yeah, they hint at it quite a bit before it like fully happens in the movie. They hint at it a good bit. Yeah. So how do y'all feel about the Sharon character in this movie? Like I think she's hilarious.
Really is, man. She's really great.
When they first met, she was a straight up bitch. Like she was a bitch.
Thought he was the repairman.
Man, I love it. My favorite part from her is she's like, "What's in the basket? Easter eggs?"
Yeah, yeah, she's great. And it's one of those things where you look at her and you're like, something's off with this girl. You're like, something's happened, and then you're like, okay, she's got a wig on, and you're like, why does she have a wig on? Like, what's going on? Apparently, she's a punk rock chick, and she had like a punk rock hairdo, like a shave. And I guess Henenlotter's probably like, oh, they're not really going to believe you're a receptionist if you look like that. Maybe just put this wig on. We'll just shoot you.
Yeah, it was. She was in the tattooed vegetables.
Yeah, I thought that was really neat though. I'm like, this doesn't seem like the kind of girl that would be a punk rock girl, but all right, I'm with it. I'm all about it. Yeah, she's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really a neat character. I love when he's leaving, and he it's like, I'm hint, I'm giving you a time where I'm off so we can go on a date and this and that. He said, oh, really? I really don't have time. Then he sits Belial down in the corner and he starts whispering to her, what time should I pick you up? And this and that. She's like, why are we whispering? She's like, I don't think he'll care. Yeah,
I'll say this, things don't end well for her.
And it's sad because their exchanges are really innocent and it's really kind of sweet.
It's pure, yeah.
You can tell it's like innocent little puppy love that they got going on, and it's like, oh, man, you kind of, like I said, kind of root for them and like, I hope they make it and stuff like that. But
I like when she follows him back to the hotel. He's like shoving her away.
He's like throwing her, pushing her away and shit.
He's gonna kill you too.
And another scene I crack up at is when she's there and he's telling her, you gotta go. I don't want him attacking you and hurting you. And she's going down the steps of the hotel, and all the tenants are sitting there staring and just like, and she's just yelling at him, and they're just like, what's going on?
These people do nothing but sit around and wait for shenanigans to happen.
Just hang around and expect some crazy shit to go on.
It does.
I mean, if you're on 42nd Street,
not
odds are some crazy shit's going to go down.
But I wanted to bring up talking about the psychic. And I think it's really cool how we're diving into the psychic bond between the two brothers. The scene that confused me was when Dwayne's on the date with Sharon, and they're at the Statue of Liberty, I think, and they're having a good time talking this and that. And Belial can kind of sense that something's going on. That's why he has his tantrum and he flips out. Well, during that time, like nothing's happening. Like Dwayne doesn't sense that he's flipping out or anything like that. It's only when he kills the guy that was stealing the money. That's when he like, oh, I gotta go. Something's going on. So I think it's pretty neat that it's almost like he can sense only when he's killing somebody or when something's going on, because even when he's killing the doctor, the second doctor, he hears the noise and stuff like that. So he knows what's going on, but it really keens in. And he's like, oh shit, he's doing it. Like he's killing. I think it's pretty fascinating that they only kind of like really kind of make that a priority with their psychic bond, and not the fact that he's flipping out and he's trashing the room and everything like that. He doesn't really get a sense on that. So I thought that was pretty wild.
I kind of always felt that like Belial would, I think he could control when Dwayne felt him and when he didn't. Like, I think that there were times when he wanted him to feel whatever it was he was doing or feeling, and then times when he didn't. So I mean, it's never explicitly stated either way, but I've always felt like Belial could control when Dwayne would feel, because he actually attacks his brother psychically in the movie too. Like he's clearly he's a very powerful little psychic, because like he can attack him, he can take over. Like I think he can clearly control how much pressure he puts on his brother psychically, and if he wants him not to know what he's doing, I think he can kind of cover that up too. Is the impression I always got from it.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm just, it's crazy, or not crazy. I just think it's interesting that whole tantrum scene, he didn't want to, like, I'm fucking up the room, I'm pissed off, you're lying to me, this is that. Like, he wasn't trying to get his attention during that scene. But as soon as the guy tries to steal the money and he goes after him and kills him, that's when he pings on it and he knows something's going on. I thought that was pretty neat, pretty fascinating.
Yeah. I'm right there with Josh, though. That's the notion that I felt, because once again, like I said, when they were connected, their psychological bond was there, and then it was broken on Dwayne's end. It was almost like they did give Dwayne a sense of normalcy, because at that moment he lost his powers, and the only way that he can actually physically feel or get the notion something's wrong is, I believe, when Belial lets him. Because he's such a powerful being.
And it's kind of like one of those things where they say, you lose one sense, another sense becomes stronger. Now that they're not sharing that body, Belial's psychic abilities had to grow to balance out his deformities and his disabilities. So, I feel like the reason he doesn't know about the tantrum is because Belial would be embarrassed if he saw that. Yeah. Whereas, when he's killing somebody, well, then that's something that he wants him to feel, because anytime Belial kills, I think he wants his brother to feel a certain amount of association and guilt.
It's almost an intimidation tactic. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That totally makes sense, actually.
Yeah, it's like, I love you, but I can do this to you too.
Right. Don't cross me. Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But well, we were kind of discussing scenes that they couldn't get away with, I was kind of wondering how they got away with this shit. The scene when he's having the dream and he's running down the street naked. Right? It's like, how the fuck did they film that? Well, apparently what they did was, and it was his idea, the actor.
Of course it was.
He mentioned something about it to Henenlotter. Henenlotter was like, that's a good idea, but how we're going to do it? And then they figured out a way to construct it, do it. So they would basically, and it was freezing cold when they were shooting. So they let him out, and he would run a block, and they let him out of a heated van. He would run a block down the street. They would film it, and then he would get into another heated van, and then they would keep repeating that process until they got the exact shot that they wanted. So they must have done it like maybe 6 or 7 times. I don't know. I'm just throwing a number out there, but they did it more than once, and that had to have been awful for him to do. Just gonna say,
watching it in the movie, it really does feel like they didn't get permits or anything. It really feels like they literally just filmed him running naked down through the middle of New York City.
Yeah, they definitely did, man. They had no permits for that.
That's some wild stuff, man. You just don't see that very often in a movie, so
I'm not seeing that anymore.
And it serves no purpose, really. Like, it doesn't. There's really no need for that scene to be there. It doesn't really do much of anything, but it is wonky. It's wild.
Well, actually, come to think of it, because I'm sitting here watching it, and as he's running down the street, is that Belial? And he's imagining himself, because even when he's touching Sharon and stuff, Belial was groping Sharon, not Dwayne. But in Dwayne's dream, he was seeing himself touching her. So that's why he got the notion that's why he woke up and he was like, oh shit, and he went and checked on Belial, and Belial wasn't there. He knew where Belial was at that point. So once again, I think Belial was playing with Dwayne's mind and tricking him, thinking he was just having a normal dream, about running to this girl naked, and then going into her apartment and groping her.
But he could possibly be like so influential in his mind that he could be fucking with his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the X-Men comics and stuff. Whenever Xavier was purely in the mindscape, he could walk again. And like whenever it's in the dreams is when it's within Dwayne's mind, and Belial is in control of that, then he has control of the whole body again. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, now that I think about it, dude, that kind of, when you explained that, it kind of made sense, because originally, and I looked up the trivia, they wanted to shoot a scene where Belial was actually going down the street, but it was too expensive to shoot it. And like I said, it's relatively super low budget movie, so they couldn't do stuff like that. That's what they originally storyboarded and had an idea of. They realized they couldn't do it. They didn't have the funds to do it. So that's why they had the dream sequence where he was actually doing it, because they could do that on the cheap. Mm-hmm. So interesting you brought that up.
But it makes it more intriguing.
It's more effective this way.
Yeah.
Because once again, it just shows how much control that Belial has over him to basically manipulate a dream.
There's so much going on with this movie. On the surface, it's like a little exploitation, super low budget exploitation flick, but they're able to get a little bit more out of it with this whole psychic ability, the psychological profile of one brother and another brother. Like, there's a lot more underneath the surface of this movie than it gets even credit for. Because a lot of people, especially a lot of mainstream people, will look in and say, "Oh, this acting's bad, this and that," because they're just not used to seeing it on that level. But when you really delve into it and dig into it, there's a lot of good nuance going on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of like makes it more special.
Yeah, definitely. So what did you guys think of the so we talked a little bit about the hotel and everything. Did you guys notice that, like, I'm almost wondering if some of this was shot in a studio? The reason why I'm saying that, or maybe makeshift sets or something, because every time like they would slam a door in this hotel, did you not notice the fucking walls were moving?
Mm-hmm.
Super thin walls.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
Well, the locations were weird because you kind of really, I got a hard like understanding of how the especially the second doctor, his office was structured, because it looked like they were just in an apartment building, and then you get in there and his office is super fucking small. It's almost like literally an apartment building, not like a main office or something like that. Because basically in his office where he was, it was like there were pipes behind him and shit, like he was in the basement or something. So I was like, this is really
well, and then he has like that chair around the corner in that tiny little cubby of a room. There's no way you get me to lay down on that table or chair or whatever they put in there. That man ain't doing a thing to me.
But even Cutter's office was small too.
And I was gonna bring this up in the beginning when we started talking about the movie, but watching it, I get the sense of claustrophobic. Like, it's so tight in these areas and the shots. I don't know if it's the aspect ratio, how I was watching it, but it's really tight and really feel claustrophobic when you watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Every location that they're in is like a super tight shot. And it's just, I don't know, man. I got the feeling of being claustrophobic when I was watching it.
Go ahead. Oh, well, here's the funny thing, real quick. I don't know if you've ever been to New York, Josh, but I know Tony can probably kind of relate to this.
Yeah, I've been several times.
I remember when I visited, we actually visited some friends in like the Queens, or I don't know. We were in the fucking ghetto, like, no joke. And I just remember that. Well, first and foremost, there was a ton of homeless people outside of like all these apartment complexes. But went up into this person's actual house, and I just remember it being so tight in there, and like they were having like a Christmas party, and it was just so tight, like you were bumping shoulders with people, moving around, and the thing was their whole house was on the second floor. There was still a first floor to this building, but the stairway, I just remember the stairway being so narrow, and just wondering how the hell they got furniture up in this place.
Yeah,
that's the way it is up there.
Yep.
And particularly in the lower income areas, that's very much the way it is.
That's what I like, that they captured that feeling of just tight space and claustrophobic. Because like I said, I got family in New York that live there, and I've been to Brooklyn, and like I said, I've been to apartment complexes in Brooklyn, and like you were talking about, like stairways are very narrow. Very, very tight and claustrophobic and stuff like that. And that's why I was like, man, you feel that, you get the sense of that when you're watching it, the frame, like it just, you feel it, you feel claustrophobic, you feel New York, not only from a visual standpoint, just from you seeing all the stuff in 80s New York, which covering like the sleazy 80s graffiti, trashy, gross, like you get that, and then you get the sense of that with the claustrophobicness. And I just think that's really, really cool.
And then in addition to how tight and close everything is, they take every space and fill it up with as much junk as they can throw in there. Like those offices are the tables are covered with junk. There's piles and piles of books and papers everywhere. And so that like every scene, like especially I love in the opening kill, like there's 1,000 places that Belial could be hiding in that space. Like if it really does a good job of making that space feel like a place where if there was a little troll midget in there, like you wouldn't know where to find him.
No, he'd be buried in the junk.
Yeah, because there was even a scene where he goes to kill that doctor. And the doctor shoves the desk up against the door, and he goes to shove the file cabinet that's like 2 stories tall, and he like removes like a bunch of boxes filled with fucking junk behind it so he could push on it.
It's ridiculous, man. It's so funny though.
Yeah.
So like, what's everybody like? What's your favorite kill in this movie?
Definitely the Needleman kill when he rips him in half. And half of his torso is laying down. It's just, it's brutal, man. Really, really brutal. You get blood spray. You just get, it's awesome. It's killer. That's definitely my favorite.
Man, I love the nurse with all the scalpels.
Oh,
yeah.
That one's good too, yeah.
That's a gnarly kill too.
Her scream is so high-pitched.
I like the... Is Needleman not Needleman, the guy that tries ripping him off, where he slaps him across the face and just cuts his face up?
Oh yeah, he's got
that's so cool.
His face.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one.
You take Belial and sit him next to someone like Mike Myers or Michael Myers or one of these other killers. Like he might not have as much like height for him, but man, like he makes up for it in nasty. He's a mean little dude.
Dude, he ripped a fucking door off its hinges.
Yeah, he's strong too. I mean, he's definitely strong. He's able to pick Dwayne up by his dick and like.
Well, and how much of that strength? Like we know he has telekinesis, but like how much of that is his like psychic strength too, that he's able to fling stuff around?
That's honestly a good question, because there could be a ton of that involved. I mean, we're slowly starting to realize how much more mind control he has over not only Dwayne, but just like in general, how much he has. And it's really, 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 really eye opening when you think about it. Like, damn, so what level can he go to? How, like, where does it end, or where does it stop? Where does it cap? You don't know.
See, if only he could have had a nurturing mother, he could have ended up an X-Man.
Well, I mean, he technically did have a nurturing mother, though.
True.
Yeah, with the aunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's she basically became their mother.
it was nice, man. That little moment where she's reading them a story
Mm-hmm.
like that, you just really get a sense of how much they care about her and stuff like that. How much she cares about them, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That really closeness and that bond that they have. So, like I said, I think that was a big catalyst in them going on this vendetta in the first place. Honestly,
Oh, yeah.
when they felt like they lost her, I think they felt like they lost everything they've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
When they basically felt like, okay, it's just me and you against the world at this point because me and you are all we have.
Yeah.
You know? But then when Dwayne gets to New York, he's realizing, hey, I can make friends. I can go out and party, and I can hang out with this Casey chick, and then I can go out and date this girl. And he's getting more and more of life experience, and
he wasn't treated like a freak anymore.
Right, yeah. He's treated like a person.
Mm-hmm.
In his mind, he's like, oh shit, there's more options for me out here other than just helping my brother get a revenge on all the doctors that separated us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating stuff, man.
Yeah. I mean, Belial probably would have made it big in New York. They'd have just been like, "Oh, that's just another thing we see."
In New York,
he could be president.
But yeah, I love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah. The ending scene, I did pick up on something on the ending scene that I never picked up on before, and I'm curious to get you guys' take on it and see if you guys saw what I saw.
Okay.
So when they jump out the window, because I forget how it happens. They're wrestling at that point, right?
Yeah, they're fighting.
Yeah.
And does Dwayne leap out the window? I can't remember.
No,
or they kind of just fall out.
Yeah, Belial's like holding onto the sign and he's choking him.
Yeah, he's got him around the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Holding him like in place. So it's like he's hanging himself almost. And like when you see the hookers, they're like, oh my God, look at that. What's going on? They start. I think they just think that this dude's hanging himself.
Yeah.
But I wrote that down. I was like, nice read, honey, on her line, because her line delivery is awful. It's so funny.
It's pretty bad. But yeah, so they fall. When they fall, did you notice that they fell in the same exact way
where he was connected? Yeah.
No, I didn't notice that. Wow.
Never picked up on that.
Yeah. Yeah, they end up like connected exactly like they were before. I noticed that too.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Everything comes around full circle. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, based on the ending too, you wouldn't think that they would have made 2 sequels out of this, man. Like,
no,
I thought it ended perfectly. Like, there wasn't even a need to make the sequels at all. I mean, I don't know.
Did Henenlotter do the sequels?
He did. He directed both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. Because he got funding for Basket Case 2 when he did Frankenhooker. He got funding for that movie.
I see. I've got the sequel, but I don't have the third movie.
Yeah.
I don't even think I've seen the third one. I've seen the second one before. It's been a while. Like, I don't remember it very well, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen both of them. They get progressively worse, of course, like most sequels do. But
I'd like to see, though, how he managed to live that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's been so long.
I wonder if it's explained in the second movie. I'm going to have to go watch it.
I think it is. Yeah, I think they explain it. They have like I don't know if it's a good explanation, but they definitely do explain it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I can't remember if it delves, which I could kind of see the purpose of the sequels, if they delve more into their psychic bond and their connection and how that's affected. I'm kind of curious about it there. I need to go back and watch them. It's been so long, dude. I can barely remember them, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Same here. I gotta rewatch the second movie. I need to get the third one.
Yeah, this is one of those, there's a lot of these movies that are a sacred cow, but Basket Case, I think, could work if somebody were to do a remake of it. If they if they did it the right way, I think Basket Case could actually work as long as they focused on the elements that we've discussed, that relationship with the brother, the psychic powers of, and the whole toxicity of the relationship. Like this could actually work as a higher budget remake, a lot better than some of the movies that that you just don't want people to touch. I mean, I love Basket Case, and it's a great movie, but it's definitely far from a perfect movie that's untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and there's themes, like you said, there's themes there to play with. Toxic relationships with like family members and stuff like that. Definitely, you can explore that more. They definitely probably, if they ever did remake it, they probably go the CGI route. Unfortunately,
probably. I'll tell you one thing that they could change that would make this a scarier movie than what it was. Let Belial be a sister.
Oh God, that would be interesting. They might do that in a remake if they ever did.
Did you know how scary a little midget squid woman would be?
Pretty frightening, man.
Hell hath no fury like a midget scorned.
Right.
Yeah.
Think about, but like I said, if they're remaking Toxic Avenger, they'll remake anything. So nothing's out of the realm of possibility when it comes to exploitation.
No.
If they're going to remake Toxic Avenger, then this is definitely up. They might grab this and have a remake out of it. I don't know. I don't know how tightly Henenlotter is holding on to this property. So
yeah.
No.
You know, Josh had an interesting point though earlier where he talked about how, like Tom Savini as a special effects makeup artist. Could you realize like how like effective that would have been towards Belial?
Oh man,
Tom Savini touched this project.
The
effect would have been incredible.
Yeah,
that would have been interesting.
Yeah, it would have been.
I think that would have scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Probably, it probably would have scared just about everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely would have been as hokey, but it's the thing about the movie is that Belial's look adds to the charm of this movie because of how hokey he looks and how plasticky he looks in certain scene when he's using they're using a
gloves.
A hand to like turn the knob on the TV and it breaks off. Like it looks so plasticky, but it just adds to the charm. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it would be more terrifying. It would definitely up the scare factor if Savini was involved with the effects for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh man, saying that, I would love to think what that would look like.
And this was kind of the heyday of Tom Savini too, because this came out in '82.
Oh yeah.
Tom Savini was hell. He probably would have turned it down because he had so much fucking work in those 2 years right there.
Dude, in '81 he was super busy. He was doing everything.
Yeah, you had several just rock stars of the makeup effects during that time, because Rob Bottin was doing a lot of work around that time. Savini was out there. You had Stan Winston was starting his career in earnest. Like that was definitely the golden age of incredible practical effects.
It really, it absolutely was, man. Rick Baker too.
Rick Baker.
Yeah, he was doing American Werewolf in London, and I mean, that was the heyday for sure, man. Like the early '80s into the late '80s for sure. Think about what those guys would have did with that character. All the different ones, like the different variations of them, would have been really cool.
I think Belial, if Savini had his hands on it, Belial would have been more of I think he would have kicked the whole stop motion bit, and he would have went animatronic with it.
Think so? Yeah, he could have, man. But
Belial would have been a mongoloid.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Henenlotter wouldn't have even been able to probably afford Savini because it was so low budget, man.
Yeah, he couldn't have.
He couldn't afford him, especially around that time. He was a rock star.
Yeah, true.
He was probably getting the same as some of the guys that were directing the movies he was doing. To be honest with you.
It's just like it's hard for me. I mean, there's horror movies from recent years that I enjoy and appreciate. But man, it's like everything since that golden age, like those are the ones that are favorite movies that I watch over and over and over again. I don't think I've seen a modern horror movie in probably 20 years that I love the way I love those old movies. You don't see stuff anymore that's just like the original Alien, or that's like The Thing, or that's like Basket Case. Where you're like, yeah, I love this. I'm gonna watch this a billion times.
Mm.
Like I said, I shy away from I still watch modern horror. Like I said, because we just covered Ari's stuff, and he's amazing. Like he is definitely on a path to being one of those superstar horror directors, if he's not already. He's just got so much stuff in his movies to dissect and to go over. But like I said, we're living in a time now where they're pressing a lot more elevated horror films, high concepts, and they're executing them for the most part brilliantly with a lot of these movies. So kind of what we were talking about with the angle of the two brothers and their psychology, that could work with what they're doing now, because they're really delving into that kind of stuff. A lot of things in horror films now. So like I said, there's some out there for sure. I don't watch a lot of like mainstream modern stuff, but modern horror, I'm still watching. Like I said, you have amazing stuff out there, but the nostalgia plays into key, because you grew up on these movies. They always hold a special place in your heart. No matter what comes out, it's never going to be able to touch. Because like I said, my favorite, when I do my top 10 favorite horror, and we've done this, we've ran through our list of top 10 horror films. I had no modern films in my list. It was all retro, older films from the 70s and 80s, and that's my time period, man. I hold it near and dear to my heart. And like I said, as much as I love some movies that came out that are coming out today, I don't know if they would ever break my top 10.
I've got a couple that would, but not many.
No, it's tough, dude. It's tough. You really have to really fight to get through my top 10, because my top 10 is so solidified that it's just, I don't see a more modern horror film making it. Like there's some phenomenal ones out there, like It Follows, Hereditary. Some of my favorites, man. I absolutely adore them. But when we talk about top 10 now, it's
a whole different ballgame.
Because I would like to see Jordan Peele take a stab at something like Basket Case.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would certainly be interesting. Yeah. His concepts would be just insane.
Through the roof, yeah. That's another one that's coming up, an upcoming director that's really starting to make it.
Yeah, he's got a new one coming out called Nope.
Yeah, it looks kind of like an alien invasion type thing.
Yeah, kind of curious about it.
That's
cool.
Cool.
I'm planning to go see it if I can.
They're keeping a lot of things hush-hush with it. They're not really talking about too much about, I mean, an alien thing going on there, but that's all I know. Is concerned. They're really keeping it like low-key.
Yeah. Well, did we cover everything?
I think I went through the majority of my notes, man, so I don't think I have anything else to bring up.
What about you, Josh? You got anything?
Just that, like, I think on a whole, every aspect of this one I feel like it's his best film. I think the music is better, the acting is better, the storyline is more interesting. It's just a better made film than any of the others. Now, granted, I hadn't watched all of his films, but of the ones I've watched, Basket Case is top shelf.
Oh, you got to watch Brain Damage, man. Ooh.
I'm planning to. Sometime this week, I'm planning to.
Oh, man. Ooh.
That's a fun one.
We talk about Elmer. Oh, man.
That's good. Yeah.
Elmer, man. Matter of fact, Josh, it would be great if we came back and we finished out the Henenlotter stuff and we do Brain Damage together, man. That would be awesome.
Just let me know. Yeah, that's something I plan to watch this week if I can get a chance to. I've been busy, but yeah, I want to watch it.
That would be perfect.
Tubi makes it easy.
It does.
We're talking about covering, so that would be fantastic.
That's awesome.
I'm really curious to get your take on it. Now,
especially since I've never seen it before, that'll be fun.
Oh yeah.
I don't even want to say anything because I don't want to spoil a thing.
Yeah. See, I think I could say it for Tony. I know for myself, it's probably one of my favorite Henenlotter films.
But like I said, Basket Cases. I mean, they're right
Close.
There, hand in hand. Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. This film. This is one of those films that I don't watch, on a yearly basis. It's actually been a few years since I've seen this film. But it's fun taking a few years away from it and then revisiting it and just watching it over. And it just really adds to the charm of the film. By far. But you guys ready to go into some ratings?
Sure.
Yeah.
So who wants to go first? You want me to go first?
Take it away.
Why not?
Okay. So yeah, overall, this film does it for me. There's not too much I can dislike about this film. Actually, nothing, in my opinion, really takes away from this film. You know what you're getting yourself into. It's just a kooky good time. The storyline is great. Everything about it's great. The characters, the actors, the acting. We didn't really talk about the score, which I didn't really pay attention to the score at all, because I didn't feel like there was much of one there.
It was there. It was subtle, but it was there.
Yeah, there's more than you think. It does kind of it does its job, and that's it. But it does do its job. So the score is definitely it doesn't detract.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. That's, like I said, I was paying more attention to everything else, the detail of everything else. The sound effects were great, even though they grossed you out, Josh.
That's what they're supposed to do. That's good sound design.
It is. Even wardrobe. Wardrobe was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Special effects was great. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Nice.
So it is up there on a scale for me.
Very nice, my man.
What about you guys?
I actually give it a 5 out of 5 because for me, this is one of those movies that what it lacks in polish, it makes up for in going for it and being, not being afraid to be ridiculous. Like he tackles way bigger ideas than most people would have on a movie with this kind of budget. Like it's one of those movies that's like the little engine that could, like it reaches for it, and for the most part it manages to get exactly what it tries to do. It's so much fun to watch that I don't even care that it's not a very polished movie. Like it definitely makes up for it. So I give it a 5. I enjoy it enough that I would watch it. Pretty much anybody was like, "Hey, you want to watch Bad?" That's the case. Of course I do.
Yeah, I do. Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
No, I'm right there with you guys, man. This movie has such an attitude to it, such punk rock attitude, Henenlotter with the guerrilla filmmaking, no permits, just going out there doing it on a very, very low budget. The fact that it's not, like Josh said, the fact that it's not a completely polished film is, I think, one of the best things about it. It works so well because of its limitations. It works despite of its limitations, I should say. The stop motion effects are cheesy, but they're so fun. They really, really make me happy seeing that stuff. The creature himself, Belial, it looks cool. Even though he's rubbery and stuff like that. I mean, when you think about the budget for this movie and how low it was, you really be surprised they were able to do as much as they were with the fact that they had that much money to work. Matter of fact, Henenlotter said, and I don't know if he's joking or he's dead serious, but the wad of cash that Dwayne has, he says that that's literally their budget for the movie. So I don't know if it's a joke. He could be joking, but if he is joking, it's not far off from that wad of cash that they had. But like I said, I think the weakest thing might be the score. We were kind of talking about it a little bit, and I was going to bring it up when I did the ratings. But like I said, it's not a memorable score to say the least. But like I said, it's serviceable for the plot and what they had to work with and the budget. But this movie gets a 4.5 star out of 5 for me. It's definitely one of my favorite Henenlotter films. It's definitely up there with Brain Damage. I just enjoy the hell out of it. I can watch it anytime. I've watched it multiple times the past couple of years. When I got the Blu-ray, I had to check it out, check features out and stuff like that. And of course, I still watch my DVD for that gritty, grimy print that they have on there that really solidifies it for me. It makes it feel so unique and so special, which it does because it's a special movie. But yeah, my rating on it.
Right on. That's awesome. So kind of met us in the middle a little bit there.
Yep, I did. That was not
He
planned.
bridged the gap.
That was not planned. It's pretty cool how that played out.
That worked out quite well. Yeah.
Sir.
Well, you guys ready to? Well, we got to talk about Josh real quick. Wanted to bring up. Yeah, I wanted to bring that up.
I can't remember if I mentioned it last week or last time we recorded or not, but buddy of mine, Daniel Evans, and I, we've been working for almost like close to 10 years developing this enormous science fiction, fantasy, horror universe. And it's something it's going to be comics, it's going to be novels, it's going to be albums of music. There's a video game we're working on. Like, there's a lot of pieces that flesh this world out. But the first piece is a comic book series called Apollyon 20XX. It's very much a science fiction piece, and we've finished an Ashcan, which is like a short tease. It's like a 6-page comic that sets up the world, and then later, and that's available for pre-order now. And then hopefully in the spring of next year, we're going to release the first actual volume of that comic, which will be like the equivalent of like 6 to 10 issues. Like, it's going to be a pretty big book. So if you love comic books, if you like science fiction, that's more, I guess, deeper, philosophically deeper, big idea types of stuff, more like Dune. If you like things like Akira and other like anime, manga type stuff, we have a lot of that influence. So please check out. It's called the Godfoe Universe. You can find us on Facebook. We have, or you can just look up Legacy Comics, and we'll have a link for the pre-order, I think, in the show notes for this one. But yeah, I'd love it if you check it out. And if it looks like something you're interested in, pre-order the Ashcan. That'll help us get to the next step, and share it. And, we're just trying to build a platform for it, get it in front of as many eyes as possible. So thanks for the opportunity to talk about it for real quick on the show.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking it out, man. So if I think on that pre-order, I'm definitely going to be checking that out, dude. Sounds like
yeah, same here. I'm definitely interested. Just the cover art alone, really had me going. I was like, ooh, this looks really cool.
Digging the hell out of it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Did you did the art for that, or?
Yeah, I'm doing the art. We developed all of it, a story all together. Dan did the writing, like the scripting, and I've done the art. But like, we've been working on these stories for a long time. Like, we got enough material for decades worth of stories. Like, we have a ton of stuff lined up. And the good thing about it is, because it's so well planned out, we've got all these different eras that are different. Like, it's over the course of like thousands of years, but it's got continual through lines that hold all those different eras together. But because it's so planned out, we'll never have to like retcon anything. We're never going to have to reboot it. We're never going to have to do a New 52 or Infinite Crisis or anything to fix the story. It's all planned out. We know where it starts, we know where it ends, and we know all the rules of how to make it, to keep that story intact. The continuity is already there out the gate. So I think people will get, we want to entertain you for a really long time. So if you'll jump in with us and trust us here at the beginning, we'll keep you all happy for a long, long time to come.
Hell yeah.
Awesome.
I'm all about it.
Definitely.
Out.
Yeah. And like Josh said, folks, I'm going to put the link in the description down below so that you guys can go check out that pre-order and see what the comic's all about. But yeah, folks, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe this video if you haven't already. And make sure you head over to our Facebook group and check us out there. And I believe also, Josh, you've got a Facebook group as well for the Godfoe,
for
right?
the Godfoe Universe.
Yes.
Yeah, so just look at, if you put in Godfoe Universe, you should find us pretty easy.
Hell yeah. And I'll try and put a link of that as well in the description down below as well.
Sure.
So that you guys
Awesome.
can head on over that way. No problem, man. But yeah, with that, Tony, you got anything?
I don't, man. That was a good episode, man. Had fun with it. Like I said, can't wait till we post it. Cannot wait to continue on this Frank Henenlotter train that we're rolling on. Good stuff, man, and it's fun.
Yeah. Brain Damage is going to be a fun one.
Having a oh, dude, I can't wait.
Yes.
Y'all got me excited, so I'm looking forward to watching it.
I want to override
Yes.
not to do that, so I'm trying to keep it. Yeah.
Well, folks, with that, later, guys.
Later.
Peace.